Good evening, Bob, Oscar, Josh, Jeff, Piper on the 45. How's everybody doing? Tony from Rhode Island. Good evening, welcome aboard. Hope you're all well. I've been smoking this La Gloria Cubana Spanish press, which James sent me. I was smoking that a while ago. I was on having a long video chat with Mark Welsh Piper. We were talking cigars for a long time. In actual fact, the Virtual Pipe Club was talking about cigars tonight as well, so it's been a very cigar-y kind of night. J Babio 7. Hola. So I got in touch with Sam at GQ Tobaccos the other day, and I picked up some 6mm filters. I've got some 6mm Tenons, and I now have a box of Savinelli 6mm pipe filters, and the draw on these is definitely tighter than the 9mm, no question about it. I also picked up some Rich Dark Flake, and I've also picked up the White Elephant filters because I wanted to make a comparison, because if I do manage to successfully sort this pipe out, I want to know which filters I'm going to be buying in future. And I would say that just by drawing on them straight, I would say the Savinelli is better. But I suppose I'd have to get through a few of them to see, and also to see what it's like in a pipe. The good thing with this is as well is that I can smoke my Matches 860 pipe. Yeah, Savinelli is much better, because I have a Savinelli 673 Matches pipe, but I haven't smoked it yet. It's still unsmoked. Good evening, Fred. Good evening, B-Dog. Evening, Jack. So it'll be interesting. So I just basically, that was the picture, the thumbnail was this pipe. So you all know the story of this pipe. This is my first Soren Refberg pipe, a pipe which I absolutely love, and a pipe which I can't see myself ever selling. I never say never, but I can't see myself selling this pipe. Hey, UN. It's a gorgeous little pipe. It's a tiny little pipe, but it's got quite a generous bowl actually, considering its size. See, when I look at other pipe makers, I see the amount of briar they leave at the bottom. It's nothing compared to what and I see that there's no problem with their pipes, but I generally leave more briar underneath the bowl. But on any pipe that is straight, hey Boris, essentially any pipe that's straight, if you just follow the draft line in the center of the shank, that will tell you roughly where the bottom of it is, and it's a small pipe, so there isn't going to be much there. So that's my deliberation this evening, is whether or not to do that, and whether to do this now. The diameter of this hole is 7mm, and I need to take it up to 8mm, and you can see there's not much briar left, so I need to take at least half a mil off each of those sides, basically off the diameter of briar, I suppose the saving grace is that you've got this ring. It's not going to be up to much either, to be honest, but at least there'll be something there to hold it. It's just a question of doing it in very small increments. It's already 7, so I need to go up 1 millimeter. So I've got 7. I've got 7.5, and I've got 7.68 mil, which is an unusual size, but it's actually is it 6.78? I'm not actually sure. .8. Hey Amber, yeah, got to be very careful. So what I have at the moment is 6.8 mil. What did I say this was? 7, so that should probably go straight in, yeah. So that goes in, so that's not much cop. That might be good for the tenon, we'll see. Because the other side of the tenon I think is narrower. The tenon itself is 8 mil. Yeah, and the tenon which goes into the stem is just under 8 mil. So I've got 7.5, but I'm going to have to go up in small increments. That's 8.5, that's too big. That's 7 mil. And that also goes in, so that's not going to help me very much. That's 7.5 mil. So that'll have to be the first one that I use. I'm going to need to find 8 mil, I think. I'm sure I've got it somewhere. That's 8.5, which is going to be too big. I must have 8 mil somewhere. Another 7.5. That's 8, but it's a very old one. Hey Steve. That's 8 mil. I think that's going to be the one. Let's see if we've got anything sharper. That's 8mm. 7. Toscanello. If you mean the Italian ones, they're really quite spicy, those ones. Like Kentucky style, I think. Not really my jam. That's 7mm, which is not much cup. Seven and a half. Alright, so that'll be the first one. That's 8. 7 and a half. This one looks sharper. Seven, yes. That's 8 as well. Right. 8. That's what we're doing, Daniel. Well, that's what I'm thinking of doing anyway. So I've got the 6mm filters in stock now. I got those today. So that's what the general idea is. So wish me luck. So 7.5mm is the first one. Okay, so I think the first thing I need to do is the stem, because the last thing I want to do is ruin the pipe. So first I've got to see that I can make a decent job of the stem. Look, the truth is I could make a stem if that goes pear-shaped. Maybe I should do that anyway. Maybe I should just drill a tenon straight into... Well, put it this way, if I do that and then I start drilling that, this is not going to be much use anyway, so I might as well do that. Bold Piper Smoker. Welcome. We'll take a few draws of this before we get underway. This is La Gloria Cubana Spanish press, which James sent me a while ago. It's the second one of two. I smoked one together with him a while back, and I think this one tastes better than the first one. It's had more of a chance to rest. This is a Refberg, Soren Refberg pipe. It's one of my first Soren Refberg pipes. It's actually one of my first pipes of all pipes, not just Soren Refberg pipes. It's a very early pipe that I bought. It's the first pipe I bought. I think it's the first pipe I bought from the Danish pipe shop. The first of many. Yeah, this is one of James' favourite for sure. Hey, Smart Bob. One thing I have discovered of late is that I used to not really bother aging New World cigars, but I definitely see a difference. I've got a box of 10 of the Cigar of the Year, the official Cigar Aficionado Cigar of the Year from 20. It's either 20. I think it's 2019. It's a Perez Carrillo cigar, and I tasted the first one and I wasn't that impressed. I smoked one on Friday. In fact, I've still got half of it there upstairs, and it was really excellent. It tasted very good. So I'm now kind of changing my opinion in terms of aging New World cigars. And I mean, I've always known that there's an improvement with age, but never as much as with Cuban cigars. And what I have to say is that Cuban cigars need age, whereas New World cigars don't need it, but it's better for it. And that's, I think, what I would say these days. Hey, Avid. Lowering humidity or temperature for non-Cuban cigar? No, I don't see that at all. I don't treat them any differently. But I do generally keep them separate because they have a different flavor profile, and I keep them separate from my Cuban cigars. The Cuban cigars, they have a particular flavor profile, a particular tang. The richness that you get on them is different to the richness that you get on most non-Cubans. Some of them are quite similar, but most of them are not. So I generally keep the non-Cubans in a Tupperware container, whereas my Cuban cigars I keep in my Frigidor. That could very well be true, Oscar, but I find that from year to year it varies. Hi, John. I find it varies from year to year, and it really depends on the crop. That's my experience. I've been smoking cigars now I've smoked them periodically over the last 30 years, but only like anybody else at a wedding or something like that, a handful over a 30-year period. And then in the last 5-6 years, I've been smoking them continuously. In those 6 years, in my experience, the Cuban cigars have varied wildly based on a particular year, a box year. So I've been saying now for a while that 2020 has been a great year for Cuban cigars, and their cigars are smokable almost immediately. Sure, they'll improve with age, but I found most of my 2020 cigars, I've probably had half a dozen different boxes from 2020, and they've all been really, really good. Still, 6 months in the humidor is going to make a big difference, but they're very good, even straight away. I mean, when I receive cigars, I'll always leave them for a few weeks just to settle down after the travel. I do find that when they travel, the different humidities, temperatures, the flying high and different pressures, I think it does have an effect on the general chemical balance of the cigar, and you need to give that time to settle back. I don't know if that's just pie in the sky, just in my head, but I do feel that after traveling, they need time to just relax and settle down. So I always leave them for at least a couple of weeks after the cigars have traveled, generally. And if I don't leave them, then I regret it usually. That might be true, Daniel. That might well be true. It's a fair point. But it really depends on the storage, I guess. And it could well be that the makers of non-Cuban cigars tend to store them in a more moist, with more humidity, whereas Cubans, the manufacturers, might tend to use a slightly drier environment. It could be as simple as that. Hi, Ken. I think it makes more sense to do the stem first simply so that I can try it out. So I'm going to move over to the lathe. Hey, Pondering. Hopefully the connection will hold out this evening. Sometimes it goes a bit funny when I move over to the lathe. I can't convert to 9mm. If I could convert to 9mm, I would have done it a long time ago. The shank just won't. There isn't any. The whole shank is probably not more than 10mm. I find that the minimum I can work with is 13, 14mm, and even that's a bit dicey. So I just can't. That's the only reason why, because Savinelli came out with a 6mm filter, that it kind of prompted me to give it a shot. I mean, I had thought about it with the White Elephant ones. But once the Savinelli ones came out and people said good things about it, I decided to have a crack at it. And I've kind of decided that, if I don't do it, the pipe's just going to sit there and it's never going to get smoked. So what's the point? I've got no inkling whatsoever to sell the pipe. It's worth more to me than it's worth intrinsically. So just have to make sure we get it nice and well loaded. Alright, that's pretty plumb. All right, well, here goes. Wish me luck. There you done. Let it scream. As long as it does its job, I'll be happy. Don't need much glue on it because it's going to be a very tight fit. So hopefully that should work nicely. Possibly too tight. No, that's no good. Didn't really want to go to 8mm. Then we answer you out of pity, not because we like you. Find another 6mm. Here we are. I was talking to Idan, Daniel, not you. Right, that will do. Right, back to the chair. Okay, so the next phase is the worrying one. We're doing our best to convert my Soren Refberg pipe without wrecking it to 6mm. Just scared to go to 8mm. I did that 8mm, didn't I? Well, I don't think there's anything for it. Oh, EU dares. EU dares. No, I don't, John. It's not perfect. There's a slight discrepancy because it's not 100. There's a very, very, very slight. This joint is, but it's not enough for me to be fussed about. And if I mess with it, I'll end up wrecking it. So let's put a filter in. Let's see if we can smoke this thing. I haven't smoked this pipe in a good few years. I don't know. And I think I had aromatics in there before, I'm not sure. Where is my... There it is. Daniel, you're not paying attention. I must do better. I shall speak to the head teacher. Daniel Leslie must do better. I tell you what, having done that, I now regret selling my other Soren-Refberg, the freehand that I had. I don't regret it. I mean, at the time, the Savinelli 6mm weren't available, and I didn't have the experience that I have now. And I would never have sort of taken on something like this with such a valuable pipe. Right, we'll let that dry. What the heck? I'm trying to think now what other pipes I've got that I could convert. I have the Pipe Club of London pipe, which the one I just sold I could have converted. I just sold the 2016 one, I think, the Peterson. Although that was an army mount, so maybe not. There's another one, I think the 2017 one, which is a Sir Jacopo, or is it a Mastro? That beautiful pipe. Maybe I'll convert that one. We'll see. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. The tobacco is a little bit moist, so I'm going to give it a bit of time to settle down. A few things I could do now. I mean, but I don't know if I should mess around with it. But there's a few little scour marks on the stem. I don't know if you can see them where the chuck gripped it. So there's a couple of little marks on there, but I can live with that, I think. If I want to be fussy, I can start sanding it, but I don't want to risk touching the Refberg R. Most of the pipes that you see, in fact, I'm going to put a bit of lacquer over it. Most of these pipes that you see on the market, the Soren-Refberg pipes, the R is usually lost the white filling. So I think it's a shame always when you, it's a beautiful script, capital R, and I always think it's a shame when there you go. I'm smoking some Erenmore in it, Erenmore flake. The 606 is already 9mm, so I don't need to convert that. To remove teeth mark, it depends how deep they are really, but just a bit of a buff can usually clear it, and even sometimes just a hot a hairdryer or a heat gun, a hot air gun, whatever you call them, one of these, will often just make it spring back out. Because it's plastic, it will has memory, and sometimes just the heat alone will make the rubber just come back out. And then even a very light sand, maybe with a micro mesh or something like that, will usually smooth it out nicely. The heat gun on a smooth pipe will even often bring out dings and things like that. It'll just expand enough to get rid of some really shallow surface dings. But if you want to do it properly, if it's deep, if they're really deep, if somebody's got a canine tooth, that was their favorite spot on the pipe, you're not going to bring that out. If you sand that, you're going to make it too thin. So you can try and push it from inside. You can try and push it back out. If the tooth mark has pushed it into the inside of the V slot, you can sometimes warm it up and then push it up without sanding. That's the best. If you can restore it without removing material, that's the best thing to do. In case you guys haven't seen this pipe, made this one on Friday. Gorgeous, unstained. It's got a bit of lacquer on the bowl, but unstained. There's nothing on there, no polish, no lacquer, no nothing. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to sell this because I'm in love with it. So what I'm thinking of doing is making another one, and only then possibly selling one of them. I'm not even sure if I've got another one of these bands actually, so I'm not sure. But it came out absolutely stunning. I absolutely love it. It's such a clean piece of briar. I didn't rusticate this because it was a flawed piece of briar. It was clean, unremarkable grain, but it was clean. So I went for this rustication, and that's kind of why it's got such a good look to it, because there's no stain and there's no dark patches. Because sometimes you have a couple of pits, even if you manage to rusticate through it, often the briar is a little bit darker. But this one is just pristine. And I gave it a single coat of lacquer just to protect it so that it doesn't get grubby, but it's still quite a matte finish to it. I'm just in love with it. I really am. So I think I'm going to make another one, and if that works out, then I'll sell one of them. I mean, I can make loads of them, I suppose, if people like them. No. Oh, you mean a bowl coating internally? Yeah, I mean, if I sell it, then I'll put a bowl coating on it, yeah. It doesn't need it. I mean, it's clean because there's no stain. Usually if I do it, it's really just to give it a finished look, but this doesn't really need it. It's clean, completely clean. It's virginal. There's no stain on it whatsoever. I went quite deep with the rustication as well, because it's got thick walls. There's no issue with that whatsoever. And it's not tapered because of the thick walls, so it's a straight bolt, beautiful for flakes. Yeah. I'm a bit effusive about this pipe. I'll have to make another one soon. Ken, I couldn't agree with you more. Every vintage pipe restored to smoking condition is a win. I made 3 stubbies in a row. We made the one that went to Gary. He showed his today. What was the one before that? I've lost the red. I've lost the plot actually. The commission one. Who did that go to? I think that went to the States. I can't remember. Thank you. Yeah, that bulldog's already arrived at its home. I'm completely up to date now with sending out my pipes, except for one, which is one of the Lavats, which I didn't get an answer from the buyer in time before I went to the post office. I had a question about the pipe before I sent it, so that one hasn't gone yet. But otherwise, all the pipes have gone. Even the one that I made on Thursday has already arrived at the buyer's doorstep. So originally, the Bulldog I made with this stem, but he wanted it shorter, so I gave him a different stem. Now that he's got the pipe, he says, actually, can I have that one? I said, yeah, sure, no problem. I said I'll send it to him free of charge. So he'll have 2 stems. The one thing which I haven't thought of is whether or not to open up the draft, and I'm not going to at this point. It looks like it's a 4 mil anyway, so that's okay. That's 4.5. That's 4.8. That's 4. Yeah, it's 4 mil. Yeah, it's a 4 mil pipe. So I'm going to leave that. And in actual fact, I'm just going to give it a little twist. That will just clean out. Give it a good clean. Oh, nice one, Hawk. Did you get the bent one? The unsmoked one? Yeah, it's clean as a whistle. I must have cleaned it out back at the time. Right, let's see what the draw's like. There's definitely resistance there. It'll have to be quite a light fill, but it's no problem. It's something I can quite happily work with. And you could clench this all day long. A little bit of oxidization. I gave it a quick buff before, got rid of most of it, but still quite wet. So I've got a commission to be getting on with in the next couple of days. A 673 shaped pipe, but with I just had a video chat with the commissioner in the States, somebody I haven't met before. He's been watching my videos and my Instagram, and he's liking what he sees. So he wants me to make a 673 shaped pipe, but more bent than a 673, quite stubby. Quite specific. In a way, it's good to get specific instructions because you can kind of follow that as best as you can, so that customer's obviously happy by the time you're finished, hopefully. There's advantages and disadvantages to having a very specific instruction, because if you have to depart from it in any way at all, there's always the risk that the customer will say, well, that's not what I asked for. But I did make the point, which I always try to remember to do, is to say that as long as you understand that there has to be a little bit of artistic license, then we're cool. He said, yeah, absolutely. If you can do something which will make it better, go for it. Yeah, a saddle stem billiard is, I mean, it's classic, isn't it? Yeah, this guy wants also a saddle bit on the 673. Yeah, it is really that last inch, Ken. Absolutely. For me, that makes or breaks a pipe. The pipe could be an awesome pipe. The design could be the most outlandish, brilliant, artistic, sculptural shape. But if the button isn't comfortable, it's all wasted. If a pipe's not comfortable to hold in your mouth, unless you're a pipe holder rather than a clencher, you're not going to return to that pipe as often as you might if it was really comfortable. Hey, Todd. I remembered your name. Interesting thing, I still remember when this was listed on the Danish Pipe Shop. We're talking maybe 5 years ago. It was called a semi-Lovat. I don't know why. I guess maybe because this is a bit longer than usual. Maybe that's why. Maybe to expect the sort of shank, the stem body before the saddle. I don't know if that's got a specific name, this part. To be maybe half the length of that. All right, I think we're getting there. Like I said, this bowl takes a lot of tobacco. Small pipe, but it's a bit like a TARDIS. That's a whole pretty sizable flake in there. Here we go. First smoke in this pipe for, can't say exactly how long, but a good few years. Certainly before I converted filters. I may have tried it once in between. I'm trying to remember. I think once with the Artful Codger on a live, but it was certainly a couple of years. He was trying to coach me to smoke without a filter and to smoke some of his favorite tobacco, Velvet. And I did it live. I smoked it, but didn't convert me. Hmm. The real question is whether the 6mm filter does the same job as the 9mm. We'll see. There's definitely more resistance, but it's nothing that is completely out of the ordinary. Not a problem at all. If I'm going to get tongue bite, I'll know within 5 minutes. Smoking this pipe, it takes me back to my early days of pipe smoking, where every single pipe smoke was an adventure for me. It was such an exciting time. It might sound a bit silly, but I would say my first year of pipe smoking was so special to me. It still is, of course, but that sort of honeymoon period of discovering how to smoke a pipe, discovering the aromas of pipes, tobaccos, different aromas. This pipe, it just brings it all back to me. It's so funny how a pipe brings all of that back. I can still remember the first, maybe it's the aroma coming from this pipe. That could also be possible. Whatever it was I was smoking at the time. I wasn't smoking anymore in those days. I don't recall what I smoked in this pipe, if I'm honest. I didn't smoke Latakia in this pipe, I know that. It was more than likely to have been aromatics. And I know I tried Orlik Golden Sliced at the time. No, it wasn't Northwoods. I didn't smoke Latakia in his. I know that. I had other Refberg pipes which I smoked. I had a beautiful stubby Canadian, a bent billiard really, with an oval shank. Absolutely loved that pipe. I hung on to that pipe as long as I possibly could when I went over to 9mm, but I sold it in the end. And that's a pipe I would have back if I could. I'll have to go back and see if I've got pictures of it somewhere. Maybe make one. Yeah. I don't have that now. When I smoke a new pipe and try to discover what works best with it, it's not the feeling I'm talking about. When I first started smoking a pipe, going into a pipe shop or going into a pipe club, taking in different aromas and thinking to myself, I want that aroma in my pipe, and trying new tobaccos. But also when I was getting new pipes, I was so heady with excitement in those days. It was so new to me. Every pipe I got was such an event. And any of you guys who followed me back then, you remember I bought a lot of pipes. At one stage, I had I don't call it a collection because I've never really called myself a collector, but the pipes that I'd had, which I guess in reality it was a collection, but I didn't consider myself a collector. I bought the pipes to smoke, not so much from a collector's point of view. But at my height, this is before I started making pipes and before I was selling pipes. I had at one stage anywhere between 80 and 120 pipes. Right now, I have something like somewhere between 25 and 30 pipes. But in those days, I was buying pipes very often. I was on the Danish pipe shop every single day. I pretty much still am. I still look at their website virtually every single day, in case something crops up. But I very rarely buy pipes from them now. But the Bosco days, yeah, Bosco Piper UK. But I was on their site every day. I was on the Boswell site on the new pipe day, which was when I first started. It was on a Tuesday, 1 p.m. my time. It was 9 p.m. I think American time, on a Tuesday. Then it moved to evening, and now it's back into the morning. But I don't. I look at their site every so often, but I don't look at it avidly every day because he doesn't do 9mm pipes. I think he once did in the last few months. He posted one pipe, I think, a 9mm pipe, but I don't think he does them anymore. But no, so obviously there's no interest for me. I still look every so often just out of interest to see shapes and the stuff that he does, and maybe he'll post a 9mm. The truth of the matter is, a lot of his pipes are quite easy to convert because they're push fit. All I've got to do is just drill it to the bigger diameter. But it was I was buying Boswell pipes. I was buying Danish pipe shop pipes, mostly Søren Refberg. I was a devotee of Søren Refberg at the time. I'm trying to think what else I was buying at the time. I think it was really just Boswell and Søren Refberg for the most part. There were the odd Ascorti here and there and other bits and pieces. Josh. So I must have had at some stage, I must have had about 15 or 20 Søren Refberg pipes and probably about 10 Boswell pipes, maybe. Hey, Charlie. I think it's the first time I've seen one of those on here. So, Charlie, whilst you're on, I want to say a public thank you for your beautiful video that you did. Charlie did a lovely tribute video to my pipes. He's going through a series of artisan pipe makers. So thank you very much for that, Charlie. Very, very nice of you to do that. In case you weren't watching, Mike, for the first hour or so, I converted this pipe to 6mm, so I can now smoke it. I took delivery of some 6mm filters today. This is one of my all-time favorite pipes, a little Søren Refberg Lovat, a baby Lovat. He was in the house. I don't know if he's still here. I used to use this pipe when I went out for the day, maybe with a family on an outing or something like that. So I can see this going back to that job. It's such a lightweight pipe, easy to keep in the pocket, I've just lacquered up the R so that doesn't get rubbed out, so hopefully that'll hold. It is quite a big bowl, yeah. It's quite bulbous when you look at it. It looks bigger in proportion to the shank, doesn't it? It looks a bit out of proportion on the screen, but when you hold it back like that, it still looks a little bit bulbous, which it is, but it's still great. It's if it would be commensurate with the rest of it, proportionate to the rest of it, it would be a tiny pipe. It would be hardly worth. It would be okay for a short smoke, but. I think I must have smoked some blood red moon in this at some stage. I know I didn't smoke it a lot in this pipe, but I can taste it. So it may be the last couple of bowls that I had in it was that. I'm tasting that cherry. Jeffrey, how are you? I just did that to a pipe last week, an Ascorti, or the week before. I still haven't smoked it. I need to try that. I need to see how that worked out. There's still an aroma in the pipe, so it may need to be done again. I did it twice. I might need to do a third go. We'll see. But I'm okay with this. I don't need to do a salt treatment because it doesn't offend me. Blood red moon. I still smoke it very occasionally. I can live with that. Doing okay, Jeffrey. Well, no tongue bite, so it looks like that's all worked out okay. I thought I was getting a bit of a tingle before, but it seems to have settled down. So, jobs are good, and I think the experiment worked out okay. So I'm very chuffed about. So I'm not sure what I'll be doing tomorrow. It's my anniversary tomorrow. My 30th anniversary. My wife and myself. So I don't know if we're going to be doing anything in particular. Perhaps we'll go out for a meal in the evening. But Sunday we usually go out with the kids if my wife can persuade me. Hey Steve. 444 smokes like a belter. That's good. Thanks everybody. How many years you been, Charlie? I was 22 when we got married. 39 years. How old are you, Charlie, if you don't mind me asking? You must be past the 60 mark then. You don't look it. $14 for you on the 20th. Good for you, John. Somewhere north of 59. Well, you don't look it, Charlie, and you certainly don't behave it, so good for you. And you're still looking after your parents. What a blessing. Even if it does feel like babysitting. You got married at age 16. You must be Hasidic. Not acidic, Hasidic. The Hasidics do get married quite young. Some, anyway. A cheeky beer, no. This is good old British Tetley tea. I can't remember the last time I had beer. I used to enjoy Stella Artois quite a bit in my youth. I remember as a kid I used to play five-a-side football in a sports centre. Incidentally, that sports centre was the location where I had that massive crash, which I've spoken about before, when I was a kid in school. But a few years later than that, I used to go and play five-a-side football at the Michael Sobel Sports Centre. Some of you might know, but recognise that name. I was probably around 20 years old. So after the game of football, we used to go upstairs. There was a bar there. We used to have a lager and lime. Used to enjoy that. You don't see them anymore because you hardly go to a pub. But there's no, I don't know. Last time I went to a pub, but you used to get these big pint glasses with the sort of knurled shapes in the glass, the knobbly glass. Nice pint of lager, squeeze of lime or squirt of lime. Absolutely devoured it. Used to love that. After a heavy game of football, shower, pint of lager. Whew. Those were the days. Don't think I could do that now. A proper pint glass, yeah. I don't know. Do you still have those in pubs now? So what is it? You get a plastic glass, a plastic cup nowadays? I suppose it's all health and safety regulations and all that stuff. Yeah, there you go. Tulip type these days. Phil, how you doing? How you doing, Phil? How you doing physically? You all right? Winding down. You guys in America still got hot weather, or you're gone cold? All I hear and all I see, Phil, at the moment is your reamers. Whether it's from Mike or from Glenn or you, hitting the big time. Coming back to this pipe, I think I'm going to be doing a series of these in different shapes. So I'm going to do another one of these, chubby pot, or chubby billiard, whatever you want to call it. But then I think I'm going to start doing smaller ones, like more classics, possibly Canadian, Levats, billiards, Dublins. I just think this finish is wonderful. The Lily sale. I don't know if you'll see that in action. I have heard of the buyer before. He may even have bought a pipe from me before, but I've never seen him on YouTube or anything like that. I don't, at least, well, I wouldn't know because people have different handles. Yep, the Lily sold. Sold about a week and a half ago. A week ago. Yeah, it's completely unstained. It's completely virgin, no staining at all. A very thin coating of lacquer on, just on the outside walls, but no staining at all. I might just canuba the top, and it's nice and smooth. It's gone up to 800 grit, I think. But just the color scheme works, the band works. I do need to find out where to get shotgun shells. I don't know of a place that sells them. And this is a brass, just the shank cap, but it looks like a shotgun shell. Do any of the pipe supply websites do them? Do you know? Or do you have to get them from specialized gun places? Skeet clubs. Shooting range. That would be awesome, Donny. Are they always the same? Are they always the same diameter usually? Shotgun shells? Well, any of you guys want to send me some, I'd be very, very grateful. What material are they made? Are they made out of brass? $12, $20, $16. I don't know what that means in terms of diameters. Brass, cool. Perfect. The 12 gauge, those ones in the movies which make a pop as they come out. With the red, the ones that go in the big shotguns. You really think it's going to be wider than this? This is about 23 mil, I think. It's 23.5 millimeters. Thank you, Donny. Roberto. I'm doing fine, mate. How are you? Thank you, Donny. I'll do that, Hawk. Thank you. Seven-eighths of an inch. I don't know what that means in English money. Hang on. Where is my regular? My desk is at tip as always. Well, one thing I do know now is that I can do 6 mil pipes anyway without any issues. So that's something. Well, Jeff, it's elegant in terms of I could do a much slimmer shank. So that's certainly something to explore. It won't quite be pencil shank, but it'll be a lot slimmer than what I'm doing nowadays. So I'm looking at 8mm, so I could probably do an 11mm shank, something like that. Which is pretty slim. Maybe 12mm to be safe. This is 13.7, and it looks pretty slim. .25. Yeah, that's cool. That's perfect. This one is 23 and a half. 22 should be about right. Well, we're about 2/3 of the way down, and so far it's smoked like a champ. Hawk, if it's no skin off your nose, send me whatever you can send me. I'll make use of it. I would say certainly 16mm upwards. 18 to 22 would be ideal millimeters. 18 to 22, 24. 24mm is fine as well. That's very kind, thank you. And Donnie as well, that's very nice of you. Between the two of you, I should get a nice selection to work with. Sort of get familiar with using them. Quite a few guys make shotgun. Boswell's make them as well. And the good thing about that is that they're thicker. So these bands that I'm using are really nice, but you have to be quite precise with the drilling because they're really quite thin. Whereas the shotgun ones, I think the metal is quite a bit thicker. Which means that on the narrower ones, even if you haven't got much briar left, the shotgun shell will hold it anyway. Cool. You did some for Danny Shaw. Cool. That'll be another interesting thing to explore anyway. The draw on this with a 6mm, I would say, is equivalent to having a bowl which is packed quite tightly. So it means you just take shorter sips, and it's absolutely fine. I've got no idea, Donny. I suppose the simplest thing to do is to declare them honestly and say spent shells and see what happens. I actually don't know. whether to say just write brass rings. I think brass rings is going to be a safe bet. If you put spent shells, it's going to, they're going to worry maybe people are trying to make homemade bullets or something. So brass rings, I would say. No, I should hope not. That's for sure, Donny. You can never predict what the authorities are going to be like. I bought the white elephant ones as well, and to what I can see, I think I've got a more restricted draw. And one of the first things to notice, as the white elephant one has 3 holes, and the Savinelli has 5, so that's going to make a difference right there. Yeah, it's light and day, the difference between the two. Savinelli is a much easier draw. Yeah, I think if you put brass button rings, I think that would be absolutely fine. And I think that we'll be seeing some 6mm pipes coming in the future. It's a little bit closer to non-filtered for some people, and that might make them more acceptable to people who smoke non-filtered pipes. I don't know. Still might be a little bit too wide open. Although it really depends on the drill, on the stem, I suppose, ultimately. Well, gentlemen, I think that's me for this morning. Absolutely delighted that this worked out. Thanks to you guys who came along for the ride. I was nervous. I don't know if you could tell, but I was very nervous because I did not want to risk losing this pipe. And at one stage, as I was going through it with the 8mm, it kind of caught, and I was just scared to push on through. But it went through in the end. The problem was that the 8mm drill bit is not as sharp as the other drill bits that I've got. So I'll have to order up a new 8mm bit. So for future 6 mils that I do. Thank you, Josh. All right, thank you, Oscar, B-Dog, Boris, Josh, Charlie, Mike, Phil, Donnie, Ken, Hawk, Jeff Babarecki, Roberto, John Stoddard, Jeffrey Steinberg, Jeffrey, and everybody else. Steve, if you're still there, Daniel, thanks everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Perhaps I'll see you tomorrow. We'll see how the day goes. But for now, I'll wish you well, and I'll catch you on the next one. And I will continue to enjoy this pipe. Thank you very much.